Oh, trigger warning. All right, let's do it. Tim Pool's world's worst guesser. I'm gonna go pee real quick. I have to play this while I go pee. I'll be back.
Trump got shot. Hey Tim, how's the lawsuit going for you? I am talking about, and to, Timothy Tim Pool, who back in April was named in a libel suit against several right-wing pundits who falsely accused a random dude of being a mass shooter. This included Tim doing that thing I just said. And listen, hey, don't worry, Tim fans out there. He will be fine. Tim Pool's podcast company, TimCast, makes, according to Tim, 8 figures a year. And why wouldn't it? With such a creative name like TimCast, of course he has 1.7 million YouTube subscribers. You see, he took his name Tim and he combined it with podcast. He's a modern Oscar Wilde, he is. The impodcast of hearing ear nest. Tim is so rich that he has his own compound slash studio slash skate park with several employees. I'm sure it's really cool. Perhaps we'll look at that later and see how cool it is. Anyway, what's a little libel suit for accusing someone of being a mass shooter? And while we'll perhaps maybe certainly talk about that specific mass shooting later, it's honestly surprising that Tim Pool hadn't been sued for libel earlier in his career. Because here's some news. Tim Pool, the guy and self-proclaimed journalist that this video is in fact about, just might be the absolute worst guesser in the entire world. Really. But first, our new and only time it's a segment. Hey Tim Pool, have you considered that pool is a lot closer to pod than Tim? Well, have you? Segment over. Anyway, hey, did you hear that someone tried to assassinate former President Donald Trump? Look it up and be careful with your wording, but yeah, it's in the news right now. A lot of questions around the shooter's motivation and how they were even able to get that close, etc. I'm being vague because it just happened and I'm not going to make any wild guesses about the event before we get all the information. But don't worry, Tim will, and has. Almost immediately, Tim guessed that the innocent bystander who was killed in the bleacher was the shooter and tweeted that out with no care in the world. Hey Tim, did you learn nothing from the last time you accused someone of being a shooter? My goodness, Tim. But it's not just that. Tim has so many bad guesses about the Trump shooting. He's already guessed that the photo of Trump after the attack is just like the Iwo Jima flag-raising photograph, a symbol of unity and valor. I don't think Tim knows what that picture was of, just that it's iconic. Is it just because both pictures have flags in them? Who can say? And of course, Tim has guessed repeatedly that this is some kind of conspiracy involving the Secret Service, which is honestly a topic we might have to get into in an entirely different episode. And even more, of course, Tim guessed, before we knew anything about the shooter, that this was all Joe Biden's fault somehow. Joe Biden, the first and only person to use fiery rhetoric when Trump is involved. Tim is very concerned about the Democrats inciting violence all of a sudden, which is funny for perhaps reasons we will talk about later. Point here being that even in this very politically charged moment where we have very little information, Tim is more than happy to instantly guess very badly about things that perhaps he should just keep quiet about for a little while, because he claims to be a journalist and should thus know better. But perhaps more importantly, because he's never, ever correct. Tim Pool is such a bad guesser that there are multiple Twitter accounts devoted to posting clips of him guessing badly. That's right, his terrible guesses are so frequent that they are guaranteed weekly content like funny cat videos. Shout out to those accounts from which we will be using a lot of clips. And to the Majority Report with the famously middle-aged Sam Cedar, who regularly checks in with Tim Pool's bad guesses because, again, they are so frequent that you can just do that. He's great content. Hot con he is. He's also, and this is important, a weird, sad, little mean-spirited creep with a Civil War fetish who is perpetually courting Nazis and right-wing extremists for money. And so we figured we'd just spend an episode aggregating and discussing all of those bad guesses, like we're a BuzzFeed article, or for all of you not olds out there, one of those TikToks that montages like Reddit posts about incest over videos of some crap called Coin Jogger. My point is, We're not breaking new ground here, but it's just so fun. It's so fun to talk about Tim Pool, the worst guesser in the entire world and throughout all of human history. Congratulations, Tim. You get an award. Sorry. No, you get a lawsuit. Tim Pool, world's worst guesser. So what do I mean by worst guesser, you ask? That's such a good question. You're so smart. Well, going back to that lawsuit and the mass shooting that led to it, in May of 2023, a neo-Nazi named Mauricio Martinez Garcia killed 8 people and wounded another 7 at a Dallas area shopping center. Garcia wore a right-wing death squad patch during the shooting. He also had a swastika and SS tattoos and made numerous anti-Semitic and racist posts online. More on all that later. But the point is that when this happened, a lot of right-wing pundits really wanted the shooter to not be right-leaning. Makes sense. They're probably just so sick of all these right-wing shooters. What's with that? So when this news came out and the shooter's identity was still being determined, Tim, along with Newsmax and Steven Crowder and other people, identified a completely different Mauricio Garcia. And, you know, a totally easy mistake to make unless you're a public figure or news pundit or proclaimed journalist with a huge audience who should perhaps wait before randomly accusing innocent people of a mass shooting. But instead of waiting or fact-checking, they all just guessed it was this other guy. They guessed wrong, and now they're getting sued. And while you may notice that Tim wasn't the only bad guesser in the bunch, for him, this comes after and before a long line of terrible guesses he perpetually poses on his show. As I already said, his show is literally just Tim skimming headlines in real time and guessing about random stuff. Just thinking aloud into a microphone after ingesting a fraction of information, sometimes to amazing results.
Disney, I got a solution for you. Cut the woke garbage. Get back to American traditional values, meritocracy, individuality, personal responsibility, and community altogether. And it may seem paradoxical, individuality with community. No, it's because we respect the individual's rights, but also the importance of working together with shared moral foundations.
I think Tim Pool is, alongside Dave Rubin, one of the best examples, like a living, breathing example of a Hasanabi broadcast lock that you guys have heard time and time again, which is that if you want to be a grifter, being a right-winger is automatic. Like, you have to be a right-wing grifter because it's incredibly fucking easy. It is incredibly easy to be a right-wing grifter. You just need to say the words, okay? That's it. That's all you need to do. It requires no research. As a matter of fact, it's anti-research. You have to literally look at all of this information that is being blasted in your fucking face and cast aside, okay? Cast aside logic, critical thinking, all of that, and just be like, no, it's because of my firmly held beliefs that a thing that is happening in the way that I think it's happening.
Start restoring that. And maybe you wouldn't have to lay people off because they specifically point out woke controversy. Here's the story. The cuts come out of the company reported profits of $23.51 billion, which exceeded analysts' expectations. So, I mean, look, that's still good for them.
Wow, that is very funny. Ha ha ha. Like, usually when we play a clip of Ben Shapiro or someone like that, we have to take time to explain why what they're saying is stupid or a lie, and then make a little joke about it. But that clip just did our jobs for us. A completely self-contained episode in that clip. Watch out, us. Tim is coming for our jobs.
It's so funny because, like, he goes off on a tangent off of, like, reading the headline of an article, thinking that the article is going to prove his point. And then in so many circumstances, the article that he, I guess, has the misfortune of, like, reading through immediately disproves his point. I don't understand it, especially because, like, do you have no fucking producers? Ben Shapiro knows to at least clip articles out of context, right? Like, it feels like he's just going into it because he saw something and then just, like, leaning in that direction. And then if he reads the entire fucking thing, he finds out very quickly that, like, he's in the wrong.
This happens amazingly often on Tim's show. He'll read a headline, make a really bad guess, and then prove himself wrong while skimming the article. Here's another quote of one of the many other times this has happened. And really, the only variation is how long it takes between those two moments. Sometimes, and this is really special, sometimes you'll catch Tim purposefully skipping over the parts of the article that prove his guess is wrong.
Like, this sometimes happens to me as well when I think like an article is actually going to show information, or sometimes people will send me an article that I haven't read yet, right? And the article is like disproving a thing that I'm talking about, right? But I scour through it, I scour through the article, and I find out the inconsistency usually, right? And if I'm wrong, I change my attitude, I change my opinion. That's what you're supposed to do, okay? Like, Tim, on the other hand, will literally immediately dive headfirst in one direction and just be found wrong instantaneously. Like, he does it all the time, like the polling data from the other day. Exactly. The reason why I was contentious with the 60% of Americans want to give Israel more weapons or are comfortable with the weapons that we're giving Israel currently, the reason why that didn't make any sense, and my format is live, and so is Tim's usually, but the reason why that didn't make any sense is not because like, oh, this doesn't correspond to my worldview. It's because obviously I've seen a shit ton of polling on this specific matter that was the exact diametrical opposite of what this article was claiming. So we looked at it, right? We looked at it and we found out that even the study itself showed exactly what I was saying. The study itself also very obviously showed that there was an inconsistency with the way that CNN had clipped that article or clipped that poll out of context. Okay? Tim doesn't have that, though, because he's on vibes alone. He's not looking at polls on his off time. He's not actually reading and trying to do research on his off time. He's just going live. And what's shocking to me is that he could conduct this in the silly way that he's doing, as long as he got his producers to like clip certain parts of the article so he could clip chimp it. This would literally make him a better political commentator, a better propagandist for the right. But it's shocking to me that even though he has all those like other people in the peanut gallery, none of them actually do exactly that.
Wrong, hoping we won't notice. Here is a beautiful example shown in YouTuber Timba on Toast's incredible 2-episode Tim Pose.
Only 22% of Trump voters actually see the rich-poor gap as a very big problem, versus 77% of Democratic voters. This shoots a pretty big hole in Tim's branding of the Democrats as uncaring, wealthy elites. They're manifestly far more concerned with the plight of poor Americans than their opponents in the opposition party. Watch as Tim starts to read this paragraph and then actively cuts himself off as he realizes that it's not information that's going to play well.
Why is Timba on Toast making Tim Pool vids? He has some of the best Tim Pool vids out there. It makes me really sad that he's like also a fucking Destiny orbiter who like I think doesn't really like me. Because like his videos on Tim Pool are pretty fucking solid.
With his audience.
The new national survey by Pew Research Center finds the majorities of GOP voters view several issues as either very big or moderately big problems facing the country. For example, you get the point, right? I don't want to go too far into a lot of the poll stuff. I don't want to get crazy in the nitty gritty. I want to keep it to the main points that I'm trying to make.
That's his favorite. He loves jumping away from the nitty gritty. He hates that. He hates the nitty and the gritty.
Hey, I kind of understand why someone might watch Tim's show, if only for this reason. It's the political version of Jackass. Just one guy with absolutely zero reading comprehension punching himself in the dick over and over. The joy is waiting to see how long it'll take him to do the obvious. It's like a fun little game.
Minnesota has announced a new flag. That's right, the last one was considered racist, and so they're getting rid of it. The interesting thing, however, is that the new flag Minnesota is presenting and has chosen looks an awful lot like the flag of Jubaland in Somalia. The reason people are taking issue with this is, well, it may be coincidental. I don't necessarily think so, but it's not like it's the actual flag of Somalia as a country. It's one state in Somalia, so it's I don't know. This one's kind of weird.
I don't know. It's kind of
My man's been hitting the Minnesota is overtaken by secret Somalis for a minute.
weird.
Respect.
So in this clip, he says the new Minnesota state flag, which looks like this, was designed to look like the flag of Jubaland, Somalia, which looks like this. So no, it doesn't. You can literally just see that they don't look similar. This is like what flags look like. But Tim Pool didn't bother to just look and see what the flags are before he started recording. He was so incurious about this story that he was repeating on the air that he didn't even do a 2-second wiki search. Like, sure, I could tell you about how the new Minnesota flag was picked and how it was part of a contest where 2 of the finalists had their designs merged, but why do I need to? They are 2 very different flags. Here they are, being different. And so you just have to wait on the edge of your seat for Tim to realize this very easy to research fact. It's like that shot in Hereditary, but with a fact looming over in the darkness, ready to strike. And eventually, Tim does look up what the flag looks like. But by the time he does, he's already completely committed to this idea and has to sweatily pivot.
Whether or not they intentionally wanted to make the Minnesota flag look like the flag of Jubaland in Somalia. It's not the Somali flag. Somali flag is just blue. Whether or not, the truth is not what matters. I care about truth. I think the truth matters tremendously. My point is, when it comes to conflict, perception is what matters. And if many people on the right perceive this as subversion, it's subversion.
What is he even talking about at that point? If enough people believe this is true, then it is.
By the way, he nailed it though. He nailed it. He's right. And that is how a lot of right-wing propagandists operate. Okay? If we say enough delusional shit and enough of our audience are delusional enough to believe the delusional shit, we can create this collective psychosis, and half of the country has to deal with that now. Okay? So much of like the conversations that we now have are actually actively pushing back against this collective psychosis. Okay? It's straight up like so many of the major political issues in this country are born out of right-wing hallucinations. Okay? Literally. One of the best examples leading up to the primaries was the crime hysteria, and liberals absolutely caved and capitulated to the right-wing framing on this issue, and it became this massive problem. And now everybody's writing think pieces like, why are people so deluded about crime? Why do people think their hometowns are safe, but everyone else's towns are really fucking violent and scary? I wonder why. Okay? The current conversation, classroom litter boxes was another one. Obviously, trans panic is a big one. But right now, the biggest one is immigration. Donald Trump keeps repeating lies about how immigrants are coming in to do violent crimes in this country. Okay? It is literally, objectively untrue. Okay? If you look at the data, that is not what's happening at all. As a matter of fact, the data shows is the exact opposite is happening in terms of like immigrants, undocumented migrants, and their share of crime, okay, across the board. And yet, we are now trapped in this panic-driven news cycle where like a significant percentage of the population does believe this lie, okay? Local news pushes the lie. Network television pushes the lie or doesn't push back against the lie. Post-birth abortions is another one, right? Obviously, that's not as consequential because people are more predisposed currently or more aware currently of their own immediate civil liberties being taken away. But having said that, there is a real and very effective way to brain rot entire segments of society. And then if you don't actually push back against it with reason, facts, logic, truth, evidence, then you're left dealing with the fallout of that. And God forbid you lean into it. Okay. Yeah. Another great example of this. There you go. Thank you, KO Fishy. Remember when anti-vaxxers were predicting huge waves of vaccine deaths and it never happened? And they just pretended that it happened anyway with the died suddenly shit? Yeah, exactly. It never happened. And then they just made it up. And we're like, oh, all these random people that are dying, they're dying because of the vaccine. And that was enough for a lot of people, because like most people, when they get really invested in a narrative, they don't want to shake themselves from this collective delusion. There is a feeling of comfort and security that you get. It's like a comfortable blanket that you surround yourself with, and you dive further and further. It's cult-like thinking. Okay.
What is this, Tinkerbell rules? Tim, isn't your job as a reporter or pundit or journalist or whatever you think you are to report on the truth of something so that a lie doesn't get turned into a, quote, truth? You know how people might be stopped from believing it's true? By you reporting that it's not. So ultimately, it's clear he just got tricked by a fake story in real time and doesn't have the humility to admit it. And we all get to watch him tap dance around it like an improv performer, pretending the audience suggestion was get an erection. You can probably see what the problem is at this point. Tim sees other live podcasts and news shows and thinks, why not me? But that question actually has an answer. It's not rhetorical. The reason why not Tim is because Tim is clearly very bad at analyzing the news. And what we get instead is this silly grifter.
Yeah, this is correct. Gremlo. This is the cultist dilemma. Once the day prophecy comes and the spaceship doesn't come to take you, the believers don't abandon the cult, because that would require, like, that there's a sunk cost there. That would require you to re-examine everything that you've known, that you have internalized, that you know is the truth, to be false. And that is obviously really fucking terrifying. A leap that you have to take in the other direction. That's scary. So what do people do? They double down, because the truth is more painful than most followers can take. This is an examined phenomena, by the way. It's not just like a made up thing. This happens all the fucking time. The problem now is that this cultish thinking is baked into right-wing sentiment. It's baked into liberal sentiment as well, in some ways, okay? For sure. Someone in the chat I saw was talking about being a right-winger and like falling into this trap, and then, being appreciative that like my commentary got him out of it. But also, there was another guy who was like, yeah, the Russiagate stuff as a liberal like really sucked me in, where I started seeing like Russian operatives in every corner. The Jesus lover. Kamala Harris supports afterbirth abortions. Do not vote for her. She is pure evil. I love that like someone in the chat is either A, LARPing, or B, genuinely giving us a real example of exactly what I'm talking about. I hope you're sincere, by the way, because I love you and I will not actually ban you for saying the truth. Keep fighting the good fight, brother. Jesus appreciates it.
Jazz, where he just sort of skiddly bops some stuff that he thinks sounds like the truth, then learns in real time that he is wrong. Or oftentimes, enough time passes that he just hopes we all forget how wrong he was. Oh, do we have something COVID related? I bet he had some very bad COVID guesses. I will bet you $10.
Look at this. Number of U.S. deaths per day has not spiked. Look at where it was early on. And now it's actually, there's a spike right here. It's a little spike. It's going up, and we're worried about that. And I can understand saying we need to take precautions to prevent this spike from skyrocketing. But take a look at cases. Number of new infections per day is higher than it's ever been, but the death rate is way, way, way down. I'm not convinced we're facing extreme circumstances just yet.
What time was he covering this? 2020, November of 2020?
Yeah, I cheated because I already saw that clip. You see, Tim, I read the articles and watch the videos before we record. Anyway, that's from November 17th, 2020, just a few weeks before one of the deadliest months of the pandemic. Because even without hindsight, it's very, very stupid to predict that a pandemic is going to be a breeze right before the holiday season. Hey, Tim.
Oh, you know who else did that? Elon Musk. You know who else did that? Donald Trump. You know who else did that? The entirety of the Republican Party. I'm hearing murmurs from people I know in the IDF that they're preparing for a Lebanon invasion. Take it with a big grain of salt, but it's very scary. Time without a OO. There's a chatter in here. There's an Israeli chatter in here who has the opportunity to interview Kojat, an official from Kojat, and he was wondering what kind of questions we should ask them. And I thought you would probably have a better answer for that chatter. Y'all at me, and that's all I see on my mobile. There's a banned video of Hillary at the DNC telling Obama that they were drinking baby blood and eating their brains. Wake up. Killing babies is murder. Y'all need to repent. Oh my God, this guy's awesome. Wow, so killing babies is okay now. What the fuck? I really hope that this guy is correct. Chatter, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're in the baby murder central. You know, this community is fundraised to do more baby murder. We love drinking the blood of babies. Time without an OWO. What would you ask the Kojat officials if you had an opportunity? Can you give me the chatter's name? I forgot what the other chatter's name was. Anyone else remember? Or is that chatter still in here? Not the Jesus lover, dude. The fucking Israeli chatter has the opportunity. No, stop adding Jesus lover. Was it Mr. Squirtle?
Bad guess. By the way, Tim's bad guesses aren't limited to video. Here he is on Twitter claiming that Australia is putting people who might have COVID into a concentration camp. For the record, they weren't doing that. He's referring to the Howard Springs quarantine camp that the government housed people in. And while it's not a 5-star experience, by all accounts, it was just like staying in a cheap hotel. Sometimes with raves. Okay, what other hilarious guesses do we have? Oh, here's one from November 2020, right before the election.
I think Donald Trump is looking at a potential landslide. I'm not exaggerating.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite. Centrist liberal Tim Pool making a prediction about the 2020 election, which, of course, as you guys know, came to be true.
There's been periods where in the past where I was like, Trump's going to landslide for these reasons. And then there was some negative things that happened. And I'm like, wow, that's starting to look bad for Trump, actually. Now I'm starting to be more convinced that Trump is on track for a landslide. Notably, he's going after New York. Boom, there it is. The Democrats didn't buy any of this ad space. Why? Donald Trump's going to win. Trump is going to win. I'm convinced. Absolutely convinced.
Oh, so close. Very funny he honed in on New York, a state that Biden won by about 2 million votes. Bad guess, Tim. Tim is generally very bad at guessing when it comes to serious political matters, specifically around Trump. I wonder why. After Trump lost the election, Tim continued to guess that his election fraud grift would pay off. Here he is on December 8th of 2020, getting very excited about the news that Texas was challenging the election results.
How about this? Texas sues Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin at Supreme Court over election rules. This suit was filed just before midnight on the 7th. And it is now, in the wee early hours of the morning as I record this. Many outlets probably haven't even been able to catch up. Let's read the story, and then we have a breakdown of exactly why they're probably going to win this one. And this is huge. This is going to change the outcome of the election. In my opinion.
Like, does no one ever get mad in his audience? Like, this is something that I truly don't understand. Like, do you just never get mad that you're always wrong? Like, if you listen to Tim Pool, you're just wrong so consistently, and then everyone makes fun of you. Do you just not have any fucking friends that are like, dog, what happened to that fucking... Like, if you're repeating Tim Pool's opinions, right? Like, we had that in this community when I said Russia won't invade Ukraine. We had that. It's my most, like, public, you were definitely wrong moment, right? And plenty of people who were probably repeating those talking points, okay, were yelled at by their friends. I got fucking canceled over it. You know what I mean? People still bring that shit up. But also nobody thought RU would. Yes, that's fine. That's besides the point. I'm just still saying that, like, this is a thing that people bring up all the goddamn time. In a sea of times where I've proven to be right, when all of those naysayers were objectively in the wrong, none of that matters. Ultimately, my point is like, how the fuck do you not feel even like a little bit embarrassed to be like, let me see what the other side is saying? You know? This is what does not make sense to me. And that's the other thing. If I was a fucking grifter, I would have kept it. I would have kept up, like, you know, if I was the person that my haters claim I am, I'd be pro Russia right now. I'd be pushing Z hard as fuck. But I guess my haters, much like Tim Pool, with their reactionary mindset, do maintain that that facade that I am pro Russia. But I just don't understand, like, how you can watch a political commentator and watch him be so objectively wrong, like so unimaginably wrong on such a basic thing, okay? Like, Donald Trump is going to win every American state except for like one, is such an insane fucking thing to say. And then doubling down on it and being like, no, he actually did win. He's gonna win any day now. And like, not a single person turns around and goes like, yeah, maybe I'm not gonna listen to this guy anymore.
We'll see.
We'll see. And he did see. Literally 4 days later, when that lawsuit was thrown out by the Supreme Court. Bad guess, Tim. Tim had some other bad guesses during that initial Trump election fraud chaos. Here he is around that same time, completely falling for the claim by Trump's lawyers that surveillance footage showed Georgia election workers secretly stuffing ballots from a suitcase hidden under the table.
There is a black table for some reason.
It's pretty funny because, like, I was covering this exact same shit in real time, and every single one of these things, every single one of these stories, I also covered in the diametrical opposite viewpoint as Tim Pool, and I was right on every single one. like it's funny to see, like, all of these, because people would come in, probably because they saw a Tim Pool clip or something, and would bring forward this evidence, this bombshell evidence, right? And I would be like, hey man, I don't think this video shows what you think it shows. Like, one of the things that I always love pointing to is this fascinating thing that, like, a lot of dumb people do, where they will look at like a complex thing that they were not privy to and will explain it as though it's nefarious and scary. And you can do that virtually about everything. The example I use regularly is the process in which, like, every American born on U.S. soil is assigned a fucking number, okay? The scary authoritarian government assigns a number that dictates where you were born and at what time you were born. This number is something that the government has access to, okay? Yeah. And that number is associated with, like, whether you're going to be able to, you know, purchase a car or rent. Like, it's very spooky when you think about it. And then you dive into it a little bit more, and it's like, oh, never mind. That's like the process of having a social security number. You know? It's like, yeah, something that you take for granted, that is a normal part of your existence, can be portrayed in a very scary way. And if you're, like, oblivious to that, you know, it's terrifying. Do you understand?
Isn't in position, and once everybody leaves in the surveillance footage, they pull out a box of votes and begin counting. Now, the allegation is that the people working here told all the observers.
Oh, yeah. The other example I use often is open heart surgery. People don't know how open heart surgery works. So when you describe to them in gruesome, you can do that about any medical procedure whatsoever. If you describe medical procedures in gruesome detail, it comes across as primitive, okay, and terrifying, which is a technique that conservatives often use when talking about, like, medicine and medical procedures that they don't like. Things that trans people use, for example, or abortions, for example. Okay? You can do that about anything. And right-wingers do this all the time.
First, we're not counting anymore. You guys need to leave. People left. They then pull out ballots from under a table and begin counting. Occam's razor would suggest they told the observers to leave, as what the Trump campaign alleged, and then started counting ballots they pulled out from under a table. What's your explanation for this? That alone, to me, is a massive red flag. But then you add in 2 sworn affidavits, maybe more, from the GOP observer saying they were told to leave. And then you have the surveillance footage of the person telling them to leave and then pulling the ballots out. That makes no sense. I can only say that, to me, this is overwhelming evidence of legit, serious voter fraud.
Bad guess, Tim. If you're curious, unlike Tim, that story was easily debunked by the same surveillance footage showing that the hidden suitcase wasn't a suitcase and in fact was a ballot box that was brought in about an hour earlier in the tape. There are a few more details to it, but you can just read about it. I mean, Tim won't, but you can. Or you know what? You can just ask Tim Pool several years later when he pretended that he never fell for the election fraud lie.
I want Trump off of the election fraud stuff. There's videos showing ballots being pulled out from under tables and they're counted and everyone's like, oh, that proves it, all the fraud. And then when I correctly break down the story, because that's what I do for all the subjects, now people are like, oh, now Tim finally understands. Dude, when people were claiming Trump was going to be reinstated in March, in February, in April, like no matter what happened, they were like, Trump will be truly inaugurated on this date. And I kept saying no. People attacked me for it. And then you have that video I mentioned where they're pulling ballots from under the table. Watch the full video. I watched the full video. They actually put they collect ballots from people like normal, put them in boxes, and at the end of the day, they pull them out to count them. But a lot of people didn't see those videos. That's why I say stop with the fraud narrative. It's a trap.
Okay. Hold on. So, years later, Tim heroically is claiming that he's always been a sage oasis of logic when it comes to the Trump election fraud claims and was in fact attacked for not believing the lie. And he specifically is calling out the surveillance footage story where everyone went, that proves all the fraud. Do we have a clip of that?
To me, this is overwhelming evidence of legit, serious voter fraud.
So you might think this is a lie. Because it is. But I have a theory here. Maybe it's naive, I don't know, but it's wild to me that Tim specifically calls out a story that he fell for in the past and completely retcons it like Homer Simpson recounting an event. Like, what a bad and easy to avoid lie. Why not just call out a different claim? Why would he set himself up so perfectly like this? So what if Tim genuinely doesn't realize it's a lie? A possible theory is that Tim Pool fell for the fraud claim, and then a bunch of people on Twitter told him he was an idiot, and the claim got debunked. And then years passed, and Tim only vaguely remembered the event. He didn't bother to check his old videos because he's extremely lazy, and likely just recalls that the video existed and someone thought it was election fraud proof, and then the video was debunked. And so he just assumed that he was the smart one in that memory. We all know someone like this, right? That friend or coworker who constantly re-remembers.
Okay, or some other third thing, which is he does not have object permanence.
Events where they are always the funniest or wittiest,
like
who
a baby.
Conveniently forgets the time they claimed that Gatorade was healthier for you than water and you should give it to babies, and you show up the next day at work with an article proving them wrong and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Cody. Let's just sell this weed before lunch. They steal your jokes and stories and retell them to people like they did that thing. We've all known a Tim Pool, and if you haven't, I have some bad news for you. And so while I hoped that this would just be a fun episode where we play a bunch of silly and also terrible Tim guesses, it appears that we have to talk about the mechanics behind this beanieful mind, this idiosyncratic little fart in the wind, a deep dive into this shallow, shallow pool. So after the break, we'll do just that and continue to make fun of Tim's terrible guesses. Enjoy the ads. Try to hold your story was still. With ground news, I can look at nearly 30 limited access. I did it.
It's been a month.
I won the $10. That's $20 you owe me. Everyone mail me $20. If 600 Pool is perhaps a professional liar, it's possible that the biggest lies are the ones he tells himself. And unlike a lot of the other grifters we've covered on this show, Tim's biggest but not only problem revolves around the fact that he is extremely tactless and comically easy to debunk. Other dildos like Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro often convolute their lies in a way where it takes longer to debunk the lie than to tell it. But Tim frequently debunks himself in the same breath. His entire shtick is that he live streams himself while badly guessing about various news headlines and half remembering his own convictions. And we watch in real time as his subconscious hastily rewrites his own narrative in order to protect his ego, like that guy in Memento. You know the guy. Pierce. But that's the how. The question we need to ask next is why? Why does Tim Pool do the things he does? I mean, money, okay. Easy question. How about this? Why does Tim Pool do the things he does so badly? It's not just that he guesses, but he guesses lazily. Often it seems like his mouth is just moving and his brain is catching up, which happens to us all sometimes. But unlike most people, Tim's mouth has some wild things to say. Hey, remember those Hawaii wildfires?
They want Taiwan. They're building up their military. There's a chance for escalation, a chance for conflict. They want the South China Sea. And then they've got ships with Russia coming near the Aleutians, coming near U.S. territory, going near Hawaii, and then they're pulling off something like this. So, look, how hard is it to start a fire? It's ridiculously easy.
Dude, this one, dude, oh my God. I forgot about this. I forgot that there was like a genuine amount, like a significant amount of people who literally think that like the Hawaiian wildfires actually were because of like Chinese space lasers. And of course, if I'm going to talk about something like that, I'm going to bring Ollie London. You know, Ollie London, the subject matter expert. This was only last year. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, Chinese Jewish space lasers. Jewish space lasers that are now Chinese space lasers. It's obvious how jealous you are of misinterpreting Tim Pool's outreach. Okay, dude. Yeah, sure.
Start a fire. And they can fire lasers?
Okay.
Sure, bud.
The Hawaii fires could be a Chinese laser, I guess. It could also be those downed power lines that were spotted right before the fire. But sure, maybe lasers. That's certainly a guess you could make if you're, like, an idiot. And that actually poses an interesting question. Is Tim Pool an idiot? I know, it's a wild theory, but hear me out. While I generally think that it's bad and counterproductive to hand-wave any movement or person as stupid, I think in this case, Tim Pool might just be a dumb and mean guy with a big ego who doesn't really believe in anything. And while I also believe the term Dunning-Kruger effect has been thrown around a lot, that's the term for someone so incompetent that they actually think they're a genius, and again, that gets tossed around a lot on the internet. But in this case, well,
the best female skaters in the world are as good as 12-year-old boys who've been skating for 4 months. You watch the women and you're like, I'm 38, semi-retired, and I could do all those tricks.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim, you know there are videos of you skateboarding, don't you? You know that I can just cut to you skateboarding. See? Do you see, Tim? Why would you set yourself up like that? Tim.
But I do think it's crazy that I'm about to be 34 and I have no family. Because my dad had 2 kids by the time he was 27.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, you know what the problem is, though? It's definitely not me. Mm-hmm. I think it's everybody else.
Oh, Tim. Tim, please stop saying things. You are breaking my heart. I don't know. Was he joking? Seems like something a comedian would say, all deadpan. I'm sure he's claimed it was a joke after the fact, but yeah, Tim, if you're struggling to find a partner, I don't know, man. Maybe it's stuff like this?
When they come out and they accuse Andrew Tate of being all of this evil stuff, how much can you really believe it? There's a challenge there because bad guys exist. There are people like Weinstein. They exist. Let's talk about Weinstein, however. Am I pronouncing it right? I don't know. This dude in Hollywood, they said that he was abusing all these women. It certainly seems like he'd abused a lot of them. But let's be real. Many of these women were abusing him. Oh, here comes the feminists all screaming and crying like, sorry, no, I'm just going to say it. How many women sought to bang Weinstein thinking it would get them a
Oh my God. What the fuck? There ain't no way, dude. There ain't no fucking way, dog. There ain't no way he said that. Yo, bro's a villain, dude. That's crazy.
leg up in Hollywood?
Oh, here come the feminazis getting mad at me for saying that.
Bro, even fucking like Republican, bro, even like the most loyal like MAGA people don't fucking defend Harvey Weinstein. What the fuck? Yo, this level of hating women should be illegal, honestly. Like when you hate women so much, when you hate women so fucking much that you end up saying the victim in the Harvey Weinstein situation was Harvey Weinstein, that's phenomenal, dude.
That the women Harvey Weinstein raped actually wanted it. See, ladies, Tim is just telling it like it is about your kind. Tim, women expert. Women who he...
And my mom loves watching him. Show your mom that clip. I mean, if she doesn't fucking comprehend that this is not a good guy, I don't know. See how easy it is to be misogynistic? I mean, yeah, but like, that's a little, you know, I think most normal people will look at that and go, hold on, what?
apparently also thinks maybe shouldn't vote. Single. Not his fault. Your fault. But also other guys' fault too.
If this young woman, I mean, she looks like she's in her 20s, has only ever been around sneaky fucker types, male
this was
feminists,
awesome.
low T, weak men lacking passion.
This is one of my favorite things about Tim Pool is that he always talks about like male feminists who are low T or whatever the fuck. And it's like, bro, look at yourself. Like you're envisioning this cartoonish depiction of like a guy out there who is like a liberal or a leftist, but like look at yourself, dog. Please. What the fuck do you mean? Like, oh, these insecure low T male feminists. It's like, bro, you literally are incapable physically of removing this fucking beanie off of your dome. Like, what are you saying? Look at the way you look.
And ambition, men who don't get up, don't exercise, don't improve themselves. And she thought, this is what men are. Interesting. Perhaps one of the big reasons that many women are claiming to be LGBTQ is because they're not feeling strong attraction to males because they're not actually encountering real masculinity for which they would.
Yeah. Famously, lesbians secretly love super brolic alpha dog masculine men, okay? But they just never get enough of that, so then they become lesbian.
Would be attracted to.
Yes, that is Tim blaming lesbians, a brand new phenomenon, on feminine men. As in, the reason he thinks that some women like other women is that men act too much like women? Damn lesbians, always hating feminine things. Lesbians, famous for hating pussies. Hey, Tim, I'm gonna need you to admit on camera that by this logic, the increasing masculinization of women is making you want to suck a man's dick. That's what you're saying. All of these unnecessarily manly women are making you want to curl up in the strong arms of a man to escape the women's manliness, you see. Tim is not a man who, like, thinks before he says stuff. Not even for a second. It's like his one conviction. He wouldn't even think before he says stuff for money. Good thing he doesn't have to, actually. And despite all of this, despite being vocally single, despite saying he has no family, no kids, Tim is more than happy to act like an expert on these things.
I'm hanging out over the holidays, and you know, I'm hanging out with this couple, and they've got two kids that are like 2 and 5 years old or whatever, and they're just like, dude, all this talk about gender neutral stuff and whatever, it's fake news. Because anybody who's raised children, is that a boy and a girl, they just know, like, boys do things and girls do things. They were telling us, like, for some reason, the little boy has just started smashing things. Like, no one ever told him to do it. And for some reason, the little girl started picking up dolls and nurturing them. For real. They were like, the little girl wants to carry on the dolls and baby them, and the little boy is just smashing things. And they're actually like, why are you doing that? Because little boys are different.
That's right. Tim Pool, child and women expert, thinks that little girls don't like smashing things based on a conversation with a couple he was hanging out with over the holidays. How is this not the type of conversation you'd have with some guy at the bar who gets increasingly sadder the more you learn about him? He's speaking with such confidence about something he very clearly has no actual first.
To be fair, he is also speaking to an audience of like equally out of touch basement dwellers for the most part, or divorced dads. So I suspect that like his audience is not going to be able to check him on this. You know what I mean? They simply do not have the lived experience to be like, that seems weird that your only experience with this is by talking to a couple, you know?
Hand experience with. And so I really think that Tim Pool is just a guy with a really inflated ego who thinks he's way smarter than he is. And you can really tell that whenever he lies, or rather tries to lie. Like,
what is that? You need to show the Tim Pool audience. Just saw it recently. Yeah, I want to see that. I saw someone on Toilet Paper USA subreddit. Like someone was posting a Toilet Paper USA subreddit link. I want to know what his audience looks like. I can't believe I'm asking for a subreddit link, and of course Weeby. A few days ago, Tim Pool held a members-only live show, and the audience was exactly what you'd expect. When Tim Pool says he's building a culture, this is what he means. Oof. Yikes, dude. Oh my God. What do you mean, of course, Weeby? Oh, I'm sorry. Who runs the fucking Brett Cooper subreddit on Reddit? Who's a moderator of the Brett Cooper subreddit? You are, motherfucker. Yeah. Don't come in here and be like, oh, I'm not a Redditor. Left is falling for fake news classic. I don't know, man. I don't know, big dog. Proof's in the pudding. I like seeing stuff like this because it also, kind of shows you why people have certain opinions. Like, a lot has to go wrong in your fucking life for you to be able, for you to become such a hateful person, right? Like, it's sometimes good to just bring people back to reality a little bit, you know?
Beanie? Sure you do. You've seen it in every clip. He doesn't take it off. And we all know why he wears it. But when he was finally...
I'm going to skip the beanie part. I don't really care.
It will be Steven Crowder. It will be TimCast IRL. These will be the shows that are running in the background. So when people are sitting there, that's what they're going to see.
Tim Pool audience video.
All right,
went
guys, so
recently.
I don't know about you guys, but one mystery that's always interested me is someone I think
Where
about
is
is,
it?
well, first of all, I think views for something like what the audience looks like. So guys, only 3 without warning. There they are, guys. I mean, we don't deserve this, guys. I don't know. I feel unworthy of this gift, this insight. I love this. Look at them. They're even better than I imagined. Congratulations, guys.
God damn, dude. God damn. God damn, son. God damn. Is basically our community's demographics. Bitch, I'm outside more, okay? I interact with my audience more frequently than Tim Pool does. You know what the fucking audience looks like, okay? It does not look like this. The fuck? Called out. What is... Where are the other members of the Austin Show podcast, like the Mormon white woman, the gay socialist, and his drag queen husband, Will Neff? That's hilarious. It's crazy.
I think I do recognize a couple different strains there. I'm going to spend some time analyzing this for sure. What a gift. Such a relief to put to bed some of the stress of harboring that mystery.
You were right. Yeah. Should Bray Cooper conduct more interviews with sportsmen and celebrities? Yeah. That's probably Weeby's alt account. No Engineer 9080. Also posting like, yeah, no, it's real, dude. 100%. Yeah. And if you try to unmod yourself so that you can relegate usership, like ownership over the subreddit to your alt account NMPX11, we will know. Okay? We will know. Let's look up Reddit Brett Cooper. Let's see if he's done that already. Okay? Oh, he has. Oh, oh, suspicious. Suspicious that it's not even NMPX11. All of a sudden, the top moderator is yet another alt account of Weebies. Oh, God. What the fuck? That was scary. That was fucking scary. No comments, no posts, nothing on the overview, just one subreddit that he owns. Okay. There's no porn, don't worry. It's just like putting his fucking Gooner account, his Gooner alt account on blast. Classic. Classic, dude. More classic, more typical than a Tim Pool audience, more typical than the top of the hour ad break, coming 9 minutes late because I forgot to run it, and I really couldn't come up with a good fucking debate. So I'm just going to straight run it now. Here's the 3-minute ad break now, okay?
Real conversations and real news. And that's how you win a culture war. And you know what? There will be angry leftists screaming and crying, but we've never catered to them in the first place, so we don't care.
Yes! Winning! Tim is winning the culture war, according to Tim, who at one point claimed that his band... He has a band! Did I mention that? Tim has a band called TimCast. He named it after his podcast. And Tim has claimed that his band would be more popular than Taylor Swift if it weren't for, like, the system, man.
More of my fans buy my music than Taylor Swift buys hers.
Yeah.
Dude, why do right-wingers always miss the mark on popular culture so fucking hard? Why do they do that? Like Ben Shapiro has brought this up before as well. It's very odd. Ben Shapiro does this shit too, where they're like, oh, this is a completely crafted persona. Like Taylor Swift, Kamala Harris's campaign is completely crafted just like Taylor Swift. And it's like, dude, do you think that you can magically make someone that famous? Like there's a certain thing, like there's industry plants and whatnot, but do you really think that someone could reach that level of popularity without like any sort of genuine fucking interest in what their output is? Okay, it's projection, by the way, from entirely astroturf movements. That's why they so consistently miss the mark. That's why they so consistently claim that grassroots mobilization is like always attributed to astroturfing on the fucking Republican side. You guys are not understanding what I'm saying. Of course Taylor Swift has a shit ton of industry machines as she is now too big to fail, okay? Got like a lot of people with vested interest keeping her at the tippy top. Okay, that part is true, but what they fail to recognize is that what they fail to recognize is that, like, oh, anyone can get there. That's not true, okay? Like, it's not fake. People are still rocking with her music. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, Tim Pool, no matter how much you pump his shit, is not going to reach that fucking level of success because there's not enough real people rocking with that shit. Garlic. Bir de kırmızı şey, harissa. İki değişik var harissa. The industry pushing you only takes you so far is my point. Like, K-pop is an example that people are using, right? Do you think those guys don't fucking train every goddamn day of their lives? Do you think people don't actually legitimately fucking, like, listen to that music? Of course they do. There's a difference between a book that, you know, has real fans and makes it to the New York Times like bestseller list, and a book that no one has read, that will have no cultural impact whatsoever, that is almost exclusively consumed by other groups that will purchase that book to put it into the New York Times best sellers list. Okay? Like, right-wingers do this shit all the time, so they think, like, no, there's no... Right-wingers do this shit all the time, so they don't understand that, like, no, there's a genuine audience, there's a genuine market for this. Okay?
Yeah.
If Taylor Swift could sell, they would do it. The problem is they have lost all of their influence, and the only control they have is the machine, the mechanism that forces you to listen to their music. If Taylor Swift was not placed on the digital streaming platforms because these companies are given preference, then nobody would listen to her music.
Tim, you're almost 40. You are a right-wing commentator who dresses like a narc and has a dad rock band that plays like emo pop punk? I'm sorry, you're just not that cool. Hey, how much of their band can we legally show? That much. We can show that much. And if that clip was just a black screen, I will say that Tim's band it's fine. It's not my thing. There are some talented musicians involved, I'm sure. But I think it's generic and bad music. Unremarkable and melodically just kind of a ripoff of a Paramore song. The chorus is, "Did you know I left you there, staring at the heartache in your soul, as your heart fell to pieces. Heart twice, so close together." Really evocative and unique lyrics. It's fine. I don't know. I think it sucks. Whatever. Sorry about your breakup, Tim. Guy who has gone on record saying that he's been single and it's specifically everyone else's fault. But the idea that he would somehow do the global numbers of Taylor Swift is once again this perfect example of the dumb little bubble Tim has crafted around his world. This perfect lie where he's the bestest boy if only the establishment would admit it. Like, Tim, I get it. I'm pushing 40 myself. I have a political show that heavily features corn and puppets. I also have a band, The Hot Shapes. Our first album, Laverne, is available to stream on SoundCloud and purchase on Bandcamp. Notice how I didn't name my band Some More News, Tim. But if my band was suddenly doing better numbers than Taylor Swift, I'd kind of assume I was in a coma and living out a fantasy as my brain slowly died. I'd assume something was fundamentally wrong with our youth that they would suddenly glom onto me and my news show over a 30-year-old singer-songwriter who looks like a supermodel. That would be a dark day for America, Tim. Am I saying my band is bad? No. Available now on SoundCloud. We're awesome. I'm just saying that young people aren't going to overwhelmingly like the stuff our generation likes. That's fine. I mean, they're wrong, but it's fine. And it's how the world works, Tim. You're not 20 anymore, Tim. Take the beanie off and stop trying to lure kids into your Neverland Ranch skate park.
So this is when you first walk in the doors. We got the arcade machine. We got slot machine for some reason. We got these workstations. We got hangout spots. We got projectors. Massage chair, because sometimes you just need a good massage. And we got this bar. And as you can see, every flavor of cereal. Oh, and boxed wine. So we want everybody to be able to come down, hang out. Mike came out, he hit the...
Come on, kids. Come get a massage and eat some cereal. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Now I understand why he was fucking defending Harvey Weinstein so hard.
Grind
Holy
bar.
shit.
It's been done. That's it. You laid your steak, you get a little flag in it. But to other people, man, I don't care what you do. If you got something fun you want to do in the park or come hang out and film something, airsoft, whatever, you know, we're trying to open it up to as many people as we can, but it's still a private space, so...
That is footage from Tim's office/skate park/compound I mentioned earlier. His words, compound.
This is like the first time we filmed actually walking through the compound, I guess. If you can call it a compound.
Yeah, I do not think you can call that a compound, but whatever. And actually...
So they have to lie about it and say things like it's a cult or a compound.
Okay, so he doesn't want you to call it a compound? That video is very funny. He just whines about how his compound is not a compound, should give him the cool factor and inspire people. And he gave a tour like MTV Cribs, a really fresh reference that really shows how cool you are. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little mean. You know, I like video games and slot machines and massage chairs, but that place looks like shit. I know it sounds a little elitist to say. Like, I would love a house, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I just start crying in the lawnmower section of Home Depot. But according to him, Tim is a millionaire. And his big cool HQ compound is like a messy dorm basement that's also trying to be an office/community center or something. Like, looking at that video, I don't want to be physically in that space. It's like a dingy stoner pad. It's not really well decorated, and it feels pretty creepy to be like, hey, everyone, come to my private skateboard compound. I have boxed wine. He's like a hillbilly shredder. Boy, I could have done an entire video about Tim Pool's skateboarding compound. At one point, we see inside his house, and he doesn't appear to have any furniture. And it's just an extension of one of those suburban McMansions everyone hates. It looks terrible. The actual skate park is just his garage with a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. Again, I don't want to be mean, but it really looks like the house of the guy your parents told you not to go near. I don't know. I guess I do want to be mean, but I actually feel bad right now. Like, that video is 3 years old, so maybe it's nicer now. I hope it's nicer now. Man, this was supposed to be fun. I don't feel fun. I feel sad. But cheer up, Cody, because if you recall, I didn't just say that Tim Pool was a dumb guy with an inflated ego. I said he was a dumb, mean guy with an inflated ego. For example, here's Tim talking with his editor-in-chief about how they can legally hurt people who wander near their big, dumb houses.
If you come within, if you come anywhere near my house, you're on my property.
Yeah.
In a castle doctrine state.
Same. I'm really out there. And the closest, my mailbox is a mile away from my house. I'm not kidding. An actual mile from my house. So, if anyone comes anywhere near me, I even thought about putting landmines in on my
You
street.
can't legally do that, can you?
I probably not.
The mice, or the squirrels will blow up.
Cool gun necklace. So which is it, Tim? You want to have this hip skate park or a doom prepper fortress? I'm not sure he knows the answer. Remember this?
You know, we're trying to open it up to as many people as we can, but it's still a private space, so...
We're trying to just open it up, but also don't come here or you'll die. I don't know, Tim. Those are some weird ass signals you're sending out. It's like watching a promo video for a children's Scientology summer camp. Tim is constantly struggling between his laid back skate bro persona and his deep seated rich guy asshole brain. You can watch him suppress it in real time like he's the Hulk on a Japanese game show. Back in 2023, a DIY skate park near Tim ran a best trick contest. And being the chill skate punk he is, Tim tried to donate toward the prize money and got hilariously rejected by the people holding the contest. You know, because he sucks. And he tried to insert himself into their event. And as a response, Tim, totally not mad, announced that he was going to buy his own land to build his own skate park. Don't you already have a skate park, Tim? Remember your weird compound park? Anyway, it turns out that several months later, Tim would buy the land that DIY skate park was on, the one that rejected him. He did it under his extremely ironically titled shell company, Will of the People. And when that DIY skate park went on Instagram to tell everyone what Tim did, Tim half denied it, tweeting, quote, "I am being accused of spending $850,000 to buy the land under a DIY skate park because they wouldn't let me skate there. While the idea of me buying $1 million plot in 3 weeks is absurd, I do own it though. I will allow them to believe every bit of it because it's based." Okay. So it's absurd to think he purchased the land, but also he does own the land. So he did purchase it, but he totally didn't do it out of spite, but it would be totally based if he did, which he didn't, but so cool if true. Boy, that really sounds like a stupid person trying to lie about doing something mean. He also claimed that he totally would have let the DIY group stay on the land he purchased under them, which one assumes is also based of him, and then seemed to imply that they were pedophiles or something, which again, based. This is all very based.
Bro, he's literally like a 90s villain, like a 90s rom-com villain. Who does any of this? Why do any of this?
And so ultimately, it sure seems like Tim wanted to be involved with these cool young local DIY skaters, got rejected, said he was going to buy his own land, and then purchase their fucking park from under them as revenge, and is now trying really hard not to admit to himself that he's the villain in an 80s skateboarding movie. The rich conservative land developer forcing everyone to play with him because you don't get it, kids. He's actually really based if you get to know him. And I think the reason why Tim can't reconcile his desire to be this hip skate dude and political journalist / commentator is because his opinions are uncool and mean. He has the body of a young-ish Gen X dude and the brain of a 90-year-old Facebook conservative stockpiling ammo. Allow me to demonstrate.
I do think it's fair to be like, my child is not old enough to learn about sex ed and the birds and the bees. When it comes to innocence and all that stuff, I'm like, dude, I'm not saying the kids should be in the mines. They do yearn for them. Minecraft is proof.
They yearn.
But kids should have jobs. Children should be working. And I will say that with absolute vigor.
Hey dudes, I'm Skateboarding T, here to rap with you with vigor that kids should have jobs and not learn about sex. Check out my band. I named it after my political podcast. Also, I don't care if you die.
No amount of children dying should justify someone having their rights taken away. That's just it.
That's just it. My lord, Tim, you can probably guess that he's talking about guns there. There are a lot of clips like this, clips that I don't really need to debunk so much as let speak for themselves, where Tim will just say the type of silly and obviously wrong stuff you hear on Fox News. Here he is rambling about how he watched an AI video about Christmas and mourned his lost nostalgia because people named their kids Muhammad or something.
I saw on Instagram an AI-generated video which created the most intense version of this feeling. I would say it's akin to some kind of nostalgia, some kind of like feeling of home. It was an AI video of a cabin.
Dude, Tim really hasn't grown as a person since his 20s. Yeah, but like mentally, he has like the same hangups. You pre-watched Lamau? Wait, what? Why is this clip just taking me back to twitch.tv, bro? Overall, bro was so horny to fucking make the clip that it didn't get created yet, and then it just takes me to Twitch. Oh, Cody said the same thing about it, him being like an 80s movie villain. Okay. Okay, whatever. It's fine. My point is, Tim Pool has like his mentality is like stunted in many ways. Like he has a baby brain, but also simultaneously he has the same like hangups that like a 75-year-old man has. Like he'll watch an AI video unironically and it like creates a feeling of nostalgia in him. And then he's not even embarrassed to recognize that. Like he's not even embarrassed to admit that. Like that's some shit that your fucking grandparents show you. And they're like, oh, I saw this video. You see this? Like, why are you admitting that, man? That's weird.
With a full 20-foot glass wall from the hilltop overlooking the town with heavy snow falling, a fireplace, and a TV playing cartoons. You want to share that feeling. You want your children to know these feelings. Something truly fascinating. Now, I think this is why people say, I'm upset when I hear that Muhammad is the most popular name. Because it's that thing you grew up with. That connection to your roots, to your history, that the feeling you get, it's going away.
A couple things. For starters, akin to some kind of nostalgia, Tim, that's just nostalgia. Also, you don't have kids to share that with. Also, yes, nostalgia goes away. That's why it's nostalgia. Also, you can still watch cartoons in the snow. In fact, you can watch cartoons from the 80s thanks to streaming. And the only reason that might go away is because the snow itself is going away for some reason. Also, it's not truly fascinating. You like the AI video of snow and cartoons because when you were a kid, you watched cartoons while it snowed. And when you were a kid, you didn't have to worry about anything, and you just want to go back to simpler, easier times. It's not complicated or deep. Why are you talking like that? But mostly, Tim, you know who else had a weird Middle Eastern name? Jesus. Bad opinion, Tim. Which is kind of like a bad guess. Opinions are just the guesses of the feelings, after all. Man, there are so many clips. We're gonna be here forever. Let's keep it moving. Here he is getting mad at his own website for being too woke about immigration.
Capital to handle the massive influx of asylum seekers? Come on, Adrian. This is TimCast.com over here. We don't call these people asylum seekers. We just call them illegal immigrants. Okay, I'm sorry. Criminal immigrants is probably better.
Oh yeah, not your granddaddy's conservative. Wait, correction. Exactly like your granddaddy's conservative. More, give me more. I hunger.
When the mob comes to your house, like they did to the McCloskeys, and they threaten you, and they tell you they're going to take your home and burn it to the ground. And if you try to defend yourself, they're going to come out in the media, they're going to launch these finance campaigns and say you're the bad guy.
That's right, cool kids. It's Mr. TP, here to say that the left will burn your house down. For the record, he's talking about a GoFundMe for one of the guys who was killed going after Kyle Rittenhouse after he'd already shot someone. Tim is furious that people are heroizing a guy who thought he was stopping an active shooter, standing his ground, something the right loves to glorify. Tim is pissed. I don't know, maybe Tim's just mad that this victim was referred to as a witty and awesome skateboarder by his loved ones, something that no one has ever said about Tim. Womp womp. Okay, just to be clear, there's nothing wrong with being bad at skateboarding, or being single, or not having a family, or being a little slow. Everyone is dumb about something or another. There's a reason that this show you are watching has multiple writers and editors and researchers and fact checkers, because no one person is an expert on how the world works. They have niche things they are smart about. Heck, there's nothing wrong with having confidence in yourself, even overconfidence. I know this because I'm really good at reading people and can do sex the best. But with Tim and a lot of these similar grifters, it's often the combination of these traits used specifically to bully other people, to spread hate and misinformation to audiences of millions with such overt overconfidence that they often just say it with zero self-reflection.
I think books are archaic. I think books are great. They're archaic. Why?
What?
In the modern era, you can actively fact check what it is you're reading. So I remember reading a physics book. This is a while back, 10 years ago. I thought it was all fascinating. Later on, I started looking some of these ideas.
Why was he reading a physics book at the age of like 25? I don't believe that he was reading a physics book at the age of 25. I think he's lying. I don't think he's ever read a physics book, even when he was supposed to. I also, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to say about the fact checking. Let's just watch.
Ideas up and found that they had been corrected and they were wrong. And I said, okay, here's a problem. This book contains information, some of which is no longer accurate. Why should I read it?
You see, Tim once read a book about physics. No, he didn't. And then he looked up some of the stuff later, and some of the science had changed. So he decided to stop reading books, which are too archaic for him, and to only read things that don't need to be updated.
Dude, I love this. Okay, dude. Straight up. This is like the ultimate dumb guy take. Maybe some of you are fortunate enough to know a person like this, but there are so many of them, especially online, like the autodidacts, the people who are like, no, you don't understand. Like, I figured this shit out on my own. Like, there are phenomenal characters in popular literature and in media of like, there's a litany of this guy out there that everybody makes fun of. And a lot of times, like, people just don't really realize that they are the guy. Is a certified coworker take? 100%. Exactly. Like, I've overcome the need to read and learn because I've you know, I fact checked a physics book. Also, physics is probably one of the funniest things to do this on. Like, out of the hard sciences, I feel like if you were to talk about like biology or something like that, I feel like there is more development on that field. But like high school grade physics is like literally that's it. Like what you see is what you get. Not a lot has changed in like the last 20 to 30 years for like high school physics. You know what I mean? Like what did you read in your book that was then instantly fact checked that you found was incorrect in your high school physics book? If you were, because I know they're not talking about fucking quantum physics in there. Like what is featured in a, like out of all of the fucking sciences that he could have mentioned, physics is the one that is literally not like, I feel like it's like things change certainly. And new information is presented sometimes. This is the nature of science, but like, I feel like out of all of the ones that he could have used as an example, it's like physics is the one that, especially at high school level, probably has changed the least out of all of the other hard sciences.
Dated or confirmed or fact-checked. The internet. You know what else you could read instead, Tim? New books. I'm starting to form a theory about why Tim's guesses are so bad. Tim Pool doesn't aspire to better himself, and in fact is proud of how ignorant he is. He disgustingly flaunts it like a golden cock ring. Like, a lot of people drop out of school. That's fine. The writer of this episode dropped out of high school, and he's doing fine. But Tim Pool proudly dropped out of high school, and according to him, he intentionally refused to get a GED. Heroically. And he wants others to be just as mean and ignorant as he is.
You left school at 14?
Oh my God, this makes so much sense. I didn't know that. Physicists here, the physics you learn in high school is like a basic approximation of a of more complicated theories, which obviously aren't taught at that age. So later you learn more physics and find out some things from high school weren't strictly true, but not because people were lying, just that you don't have the skills or knowledge for the more advanced theory. High school physics hasn't changed in over a century as far as I know. Wait, I didn't know this motherfucker dropped out of high school, bro, and refused to get a GED. That's crazy. Like, no disrespect to people's educational attainment, but goddamn, son, holy fuck.
Yeah.
That's like he's actively trying to not get any sort of educational attainment at all. It's making me feel like it's putting a lot. This was like the puzzle piece that was missing from my equation. Like, I always wondered, like, what the fuck is up with Tim Pool? And now I'm understanding a lot of what the fuck is up with Tim Pool. Like, he has a middle school education, dude. Like, that makes so much fucking sense, dude. What the fuck? He's like unique. Like, we're not talking about a fucking, we're not talking about someone with like a Bachelor of Arts, like, oh my God, I can't believe he doesn't have a BA or whatever. Like, this motherfucker barely went to high school, bro. Like, that's crazy. Bruh. You're just walking around like a fucking caveman? Like, how do you let that happen? How do you let that happen in fucking grand old 2024, man? How do you let that happen to yourself? Like, society prospered to get to this point where we don't do this, okay? Like, you live in America, dude. What the fuck? That's crazy. That actually is shocking. That is unique, chat. This motherfucker's like an actual ape, bro. That's crazy.
And then just
Yeah,
that
I
was
went
it.
to high school for like 2 months.
You're just like, I can't. I'm done.
Oh, it's the stupidest waste of time.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're not advocating not graduating high school, though.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Really?
huge waste of time.
Waste of time, kids. Just ask Tim Pool, the worst guesser who ever lived. And I know what Tim would say. He'd point out that if he's so stupid, why is he so rich? And yeah, that's actually a good question. Because frankly, it's weird that he can be this obviously misinformed, this proudly ignorant, guess so poorly, so consistent.
I'm not kidding. I think about this quite a bit. And I think like my stupidity is my fucking superpower in some respects. Because I feel like if I was a little bit smarter, I would not be like appealing. I'd be fucking way more annoying. Like, I'm not the most intelligent person. I have to work really hard to figure shit out, okay? And when I was younger, I was like very upset about that. I always felt like, oh man, I gotta fucking study so goddamn hard. This shit sucks. Like, I'm serious. If I was actually a more intelligent person, I feel like I'd be fucking unbearable, dude. Like, I think it makes me, you'd be way more horny for debates. You're actually wrong. Let me tell you something, okay? The greatest trick that debate lords pull is to present themselves as incredibly fucking knowledgeable. They are not. That's why they so consistently find themselves wrong. So consistently. Like, it's just a pure aesthetic thing. Destiny comes to mind, okay? He has the confidence of an autistic man who's read a lot of books. That's how he presents himself. And a lot of people, sometimes autistic, sometimes not, who haven't read a lot of books, end up falling for it. Jordan Peterson did this as well. Okay? They think, oh, this is a knowledgeable person. But if you've done even a little bit of reading, if you do a little bit of interrogation, you will recognize very quickly, oh shit, this dude has no fucking idea what he's talking about. This is Gary being in front of the class. Sorry. There are brilliant people who debate and debate well. I'm just saying that, like, plenty of people who do it as a sport online simply aesthetically present themselves as very intelligent or very knowledgeable, but like they're not. I mean, the greatest example comes from Bonarelli actually going up against the dude who wrote the fucking books that he claimed to fake read. You know what I mean? Made him look like a fucking abject fool. This guy's popping off, dude. Holy shit. I knew he was going to come in hot with the Kojak questions. Holy shit. Anyway.
Consistently and get rich doing it. I mean, it's not that weird as evidenced by other rich people. But after the break, we're going to find out how this happened. I'm sorry. I thought this was going to be fun, but I got to crack this dumb little nut, not in a sex way, and ask why Tim Pool could have possibly gotten famous to begin with. But first, let's crack these ads. Yes, in a sex way. Hey now, we're back. Hi. We're doing a Tim Pool. We're diving in that pool. That toxic, shallow pool. We discussed how Tim Pool just seems like a really overconfident, dumb guy and gave many examples. And here's another one. Remember that libel suit against Tim? It turns out that Tim Pool actually tried to represent himself in court.
And what was really strange is that most of these defendants were represented by counsel when we were talking to them. The only one that wasn't was Tim Pool, who thought that he could negotiate with me without an attorney.
Oh my gosh.
And he didn't put a retraction either.
Tim Pool, law expert, proud GED refuser. It seems clear that Tim Pool is so overconfident and dumb that he is capable of actively sabotaging himself. It's a very specific type of dumb and reckless we see with people like Trump or Alex Jones, where they get by for way too long and then, in theory, eventually see consequences. We're especially seeing this with Jones, whose empire appears to be dissolving before our eyes like a dead raccoon in a hot tub. And as I said at the start of this, I do not think this libel suit will be the only lawsuit Tim Pool sees. And someday, maybe not soon enough, we could easily see Tim sabotage his little empire into oblivion. But right now, it's easy to see why Tim Pool is so overly confident, the same way someone like Trump was so overly confident. For the first half of Tim's life, he's been able to get rich by having absolutely zero knowledge or skills. And I think the reason for that is simple and because of two things.
I think there's
Number one, Tim Pool was exactly in the right place at the right time. And
I think there's a difference between Tim Pool and Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is also telegenic and endlessly charismatic. And I still mean that when I say that. Like, he is. He's a fucking demon and a bad person, okay? He's a fucking demon and a bad person. Make no mistake. But he's a fucking showman, okay? He is a truly entertaining individual. He knows it too. Like, he's been on TV for so many damn years. He knows what works. He knows what aspects of his personality are making him charismatic. He knows it. Trump as well. Trump is charismatic. He's a showman. That's why it's so sad to see my goat kind of no longer have the same juice and the sauce that he once had. Also evil, by the way. Trump also used that charisma and his telegenic show business genes for evil. Tim Pool has none of that.
Number two, Tim Pool doesn't actually believe in anything and was willing to say whatever he needed to get ahead. There's a very good Daily Beast article recounting Tim's rise to fame, which he mainly accomplished by lying and constantly changing his convictions. Because, I don't know if you remember this, but Tim Pool wasn't always a right-wing ghoul. He started his career as an Occupy Wall Street activist who made the news by utilizing modern media tactics that in 2011 were seen as cutting edge, such as live streaming and drone cameras. He wasn't the only person doing this, mind you, but he was there. And at the time, Tim presented himself as a centrist who nonetheless sided with the movement. Quote, I feel like I'm 80% of the time unbiased, and then I have that natural Occupy Wall Street is fighting for the people in me. So I did come down here to support the movement. I'm not going to deny it or lie about it. It would take Tim only 10 months to deny that and lie about it, telling El País that he was, quote, not an activist. 6 years later, Tim would claim that he never supported Occupy Wall Street.
I don't align with Occupy Wall Street and never did. I'm particularly anti-authoritarian, so when you had this weird regressive authoritarianism happening during Occupy, I told him to f*** off.
Boy, for a journalist, Tim doesn't seem to realize that people record the things he says. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back in the 2010s, Tim was still seen as this hip new citizen journalist. This is no doubt how he still sees himself today. But by all accounts, Tim was more of an empty vessel than anything else. He was hired by Vice in 2013, and to the frustration of his co-workers, Tim presented a, quote, deficit of ideas. According to a former member of Vice's video team, there was...
Bro, remember, didn't he also, like, go to the no-go zones in Sweden? The no-go zones? As in, like, areas that are densely populated with Muslim immigrants that Europe racistly called no-go zones?
There was frustration about his inability to do a repeat hit like his coverage of Occupy Wall Street.
Okay, someone just locked down a fucking statement that I have to highlight here. This motherfucker went to Istanbul and didn't get his fucking hair plugs, dude. I don't know who the chatter said. I don't know which chatter said this, but you are right. That's crazy, bro. Motherfucker went to literally the hair capital of the planet and didn't get his shit fixed.
But Tim remained there because of how, quote, seemingly oblivious the upper management and the execs at Vice were to the fact that Tim Pool was a total hack. Tim, of course, denies this and claims to the Daily Beast that he, quote, constantly flew into chaos. Do we have a clip of the chaos?
We're just back on the live feed. We were switching batteries. There's a guy here that's showing us one of the tear gas canisters that police shot at protesters before.
Okay, just to be clear, that main video isn't Tim Pool. If you look closely, Tim's live stream is in the corner there. This is Vice's 2014 coverage of the Ferguson protests, and for this entire 34-minute video, they never swap over to Tim, who, from what I can tell, never goes near anyone or does anything. You can just skip through the video and see. Here's 10 minutes into the video.
But could you tell me what you've seen tonight? Large, peaceful protest that lasted well into the morning. Thank you.
Come on. And here's 20 minutes into the video.
But some of the people I talked to said that, you guys have tried to stop protesters, but for instance, when they called 911 while their stores were getting looted, there was no response to that.
And here's 25 minutes into the video.
I don't think I'm the guy you want to talk to.
You're doing fine. Yeah, you sound great. You don't have an accent, I have an accent.
I did talk to Tim Ezel once.
Boy, he is just in that same parking lot the whole time, isn't he? And around this same time, they just completely stopped showing his stream, presumably because he went to Waffle House or something and forgot the camera was on. Despite this, Tim has boasted that he's covered conflict and protest in several countries.
Come on,
but it's
bro.
really hard to find much
no-go
evidence
zone
of him actually getting in the shit. I'm not saying he never got near violence or conflict, just that it's clear he did as little as he had to. And more often than not, his videos seem more obsessed with the cool tech he's using instead of the protest itself. Here's a video out of Vice where Tim covered the Gezi Park protest in Istanbul, and most of it is about how he used Google Glass to do it.
Okay, Glass, take a picture.
Right now I am in Istanbul, Turkey, here to report live on the ongoing protests. The audience I'm trying to reach is everyone, me personally. I want as many people as possible to know about what's going on and to care about things that I believe are changing.
Okay, if he actually was at the Gizzy protest, like, that's dangerous as fuck. Like, Turkish government don't play around, you know? They murk motherfuckers, but I actually don't really understand how he, like, went there, didn't see any action, and then simply just walked around like a dildo with a fucking Google Glass strapped to his face. How do you make, like, this is peak Vice too. How do you make peak Vice look lame?
Changing the world.
It's like a documentary about how Tim Pool is a journalist and all his cool gadgets. Like, he's more interested in being seen doing the thing than the thing itself.
That's incredible. That's incredible. You know, 1 megabit up isn't great, but it's more than enough that I need.
Cool, Tim. Glad your internet works. Again, there are moments where we see actual coverage of the protests, but it's unclear if Tim is actually present for those. Whenever we do see Tim, he is often just describing a thing that he missed.
This morning was, it was intense. As soon as I got down here, I saw posts from my friend Jenna about tear gas being fired, about water cannons. She got tear gas and she got hit with a water cannon.
Oh yeah, this morning, it was so intense how I read these posts about stuff other people did. Tim, did you not wake up in time? Do you like to sleep in? This is the whole video. A 15-minute Google Glass promo that ends with Tim Pool across the street from a tear-gassed hotel claiming that he was totally over there a minute ago, but not showing any footage.
The inside of the divan, I just went in there. It's, there's tear gas. The inside is just full of tear gas. Now, multiple times, police have fired tear gas into the lobby of this hotel, resulting in several injuries. People are being carried out. They seem to be unconscious. Make sure to stay tuned, share the information on Twitter, share the link on Twitter, let people know what's happening.
Boy, it really seems like he was just at his hotel and this happened.
I'm not gonna lie, controversial opinion, but it's valid that he was there. Even with fucking Ferguson. Like, I don't know the totality of his work at Vice, so I can't speak on it. I only know, like, the funny, dumb shit that he did, where he was, like, very clearly a propagandist for, like, right-wing shit, right? Right-wing sentiment. But overall, like, his job is to fucking go there. If he actually interviewed people that were participating in the protests or whatever, like, then it's good. You know what I mean? Then he's doing his job. You don't have to, as a journalist, constantly fucking, dive headfirst into, like, conflict.
Also, bad guess about the relevance of Google Glass, Tim. Anyway, that's Tim in Istanbul. He also covered the rebellion in Thailand, where he...
So we decided to leave the Dindang area and make our way back to the hotel and get our bearings. But we just saw a PDRC stage demolished, and we're hopping some motorcycle taxis to make our way back. Trying to figure out what's happening.
Rode around on mopeds? No, really. Here's his Vimeo page titled Thai Revolt, and it's mainly just videos of Tim Pool riding around on mopeds away from the action, on Vice's dime, I assume. He's just riding around, sometimes talking about what's going on, but not actually showing it.
Okay, that's gotta be hella annoying. Oh my God. Oh my God, imagine. Because, like, these guys have other fucking journalists that they can send out there who will actually film the conflict. If he's the only person that they're sending out there and this is what he's doing, oh my God, I'd be so fucking mad. I would be so fucking mad. Like, that's actually fucked up because, like, you have a job there. Your job is to literally show what the fuck's going on. That's actually messed up.
This is a crisis that's been going on for many, many years.
Hard-hitting stuff. To be fair, Tim does put feet on the ground, but much like his Istanbul coverage, it's almost entirely just him claiming that a thing just happened while the camera shakes so hard you can't watch more than 5 seconds without getting a headache.
And we're trying to figure out what our exits are. You know, if things go south, we need to know where to be. And obviously, if we get any inclination that there's going to be armed conflict, we're we're going to leave immediately. Protesters are using M16s and AK-47s. There have been M70 grenades. This is a particularly dangerous situation, though we're not seeing an active front line and heavy armed conflict. We're just seeing sporadic violence around the city. So make sure to stay tuned.
Oh yeah, and be sure to follow him on Twitter.
Check out Vice.com. Hopefully we've got many updates for you on the site, and you can follow us on Twitter at TimCast.
So it's safe to say that Tim Pool wasn't actually a very good journalist. He did it for a few years and mainly focused on himself and the technology.
Like, this is partially why I have a lot of respect for journalists, like good journalists in general. Like, even if I don't agree with their worldview, sometimes, like Clarissa Ward comes to mind, like she's still fucking out there. You know what I mean? She's still fucking out there. Like, she snuck into Gaza, dude. Okay? Clarissa Ward, straight up, with a Qatari fucking envoy, snuck into Gaza. Okay? That's brave as fuck. I might not agree with some of the sentiment that she displays, but that's what she fucking did. Okay? At that point, you are literally signing your fucking life away. And a lot of good journalists do that. Anyway.
He was using. But that was enough to get his name, presumably Timothy Cast, out there. He was the live stream Google Glass drone dude. It didn't matter that he didn't actually get good footage. It was hip and fresh. Then, at some point around 2014, Tim Pool would set off on his own. And a few years later, in 2017, Tim would learn an extremely valuable lesson. If you're too lazy to be an effective journalist, it turns out you can just make stuff up. Donald Trump had just become the president after all, and Tim saw the sloppy yarn that guy spun, one such yarn being that there was a crime wave in Sweden. This was, by all accounts...
This is the best one. This is his peak, dude. This is peak journalism. He is going to show you guys how wrong you actually are, okay? He's going to show you guys how fucking wrong you are for saying he doesn't go into conflict zones, because I remember my goat going into directly the field of battle. I remember this as, of course, a Muslim man living in the United States of America at the time, regularly trying to deal with a lot of the Redditor chatters who straight up were like, you don't understand, dude. There are like actual enclaves where there's crime that's running rampant.
Just one of the many weird rambles we've become hauntingly accustomed to by a guy who was, President of the United States, it seems. And like a lot of weird Donald Trump rambling, the right wing became determined to prove that it was true. Specifically, right-wing has-been Paul Joseph Watson put out the Prove Sweden is Filled with Crime challenge, offering to pay any journalist to go to Sweden and document that there's a crime problem there. You know how all good reporting starts with a conclusion and then works backward via money to force that conclusion? And Tim, being completely untethered from any institution or morality, took Watson up on this.
Trump is making a reference to reported crime, right? There's this perceived rape and sexual assault epidemic hitting many other countries in Europe. And a lot of Trump supporters take these stories to, be evidence of a problem with refugees and migrants. In fact, the New York Times, which was critical of Donald Trump's statement last night in Sweden, talking about how Sweden was calling him out for it, does have a story referencing over 40 instances of sexual assault at a music festival, in which they actually say that of 7 suspects being questioned by the police, 6 of them are foreign.
You can already see that he's beginning to court the right with the exact same talking points as Trump. But to be clear, Tim still claims to be a completely objective party who just needs some money to go to Sweden so he can, I guess, talk to people.
This is where I make the announcement that I am going to be traveling to Sweden and France and some other countries in Europe to actually figure out what the hell's really going on. I'll say this, I don't side with anybody. I'm a skeptic, I guess. So when I hear these stories, I say, okay, well, let's look into this and figure out if it's true or not. I will be setting up a GoFundMe so that we can raise money to produce a series of videos on the ground across Europe, interviewing real people on all sides of the political spectrum to figure out if anything is happening, what is it?
Yes, real people on all sides. You might be wondering why you'd need to fund this one dude to go to Sweden and walk around and talk to people. Like, Sweden has their own reporters, right? You don't need to pay a guy to go walk around. But amazingly, this worked. Tim got $20,000 for his trip, the result being a series of videos where Tim Pool just walks around Sweden, films nothing of substance, and talks to people he could have easily called on the phone. This includes the deputy mayor of Malmo, who 7 minutes in debunks the entire idea that immigrants are causing an increase in sexual assaults.
Yeah, but, you know, we must investigate it further. That's crazy, man. What a scam. What an amazing scam. In many ways, like, racist people have this, like, firm conviction that something horrible is happening in Europe. You get a fucking $20,000 paid trip out of it. And all you do is just go walk around. That's amazing. Meanwhile, his entire fan base is primed to fucking hating, like, I don't know, women who are also using Kickstarter and other kinds of grifts like this. They grift all the time. And people get mad at those grifters, but they never recognize that this guy is also grifting in the exact same way. This is where he realized how easy it was to grift the right-wingers. No, I think he was always, like, kind of dumb. You know. Sweet here. For some reason, our Nazis love him. Some reason. Yeah. I wonder what it is. Okay.
People have said that there is a huge influx in sexual crimes in Sweden. And we've been told that it's simply because Sweden has a wider law, more encompassing, and that people tend to report more. But I guess I'd like to get your thoughts on the whole issue and just talk about it a little bit.
Wait, he knows what it is. That's literally it. The increase in rape, like documented rape in Sweden, was directly a consequence of Sweden becoming quote unquote more woke in the way that they document the crime of rape. That is why there was a massive fucking increase in documented rape statistics. If he knows that, why the fuck's he still there? You didn't have to fly out there to find this out. I never flew out there. Have I ever been to Sweden? I don't think I've ever been to Sweden.
Well, Sweden has changed its laws regarding sexual assault and rape and sexual misconduct in a way that it's more encompassing. So it's more actions are defined as rape or sexual assault now than before, and every report is followed up, and you get support for the crime victims and often rather speedy trials. And that increases the will to report the crime. If you know that something will be done, then you're more likely to report.
So there you have it. Solved. He goes on to say,
oh my God, chatters, you're so right. I need to go find out if China is fucked up. Oh my God. Oh my God, I should grift to the right by being like, China is the most evil nation on the planet. They are doing evil. More evil per capita than any other country. And I've found out, get ready, there's more than 1 billion of them. Dun, dun, dun. With your support, I can fly out to China. Okay? I can fly out to China and investigate the evil crimes of the Chinese. We can find out the evils of high-speed rail. Find out the evils of, I don't know, rapid urbanization and rapid even development. We can go and look at these cities that used to be called ghost cities not that long ago, and see if the Chinese now living in those cities are real Chinese people or simply ghosts. I'm just saying all of that and more. And no one will see a 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour because while I'm live streaming from China, I will not be seeing the ads because we don't serve any ads in China. You, of course, are not in China. You're in America. So you will see those ads at the top of the hour unless you subscribe. No. Yeah, bro, you can stay here. No, you can stay here. Austin's here. My dad is sleeping on the couch. Right now, yeah. Yes. Yeah. All right. Take a breather, man. Oh, we can do band appeals. I'm almost done with this video. When you're yeah. Take a breather, man. Watching movies like watching a soap opera where everyone's permanently in a bad mood. Maybe some chill wives or a puppy could help turn that permanent frown upside down. That's funny. All right. Kaya, place. There you go. Clipping this to bitty bitty because they won't tell this is sarcasm. No, don't do it. I love China.
Say that while they are overrepresented in crime statistics, there is no evidence that refugees are committing violent crimes specifically.
But the crimes we've seen, the violent crimes, we have nothing to support, no evidence in support of thinking that it's the refugees who are committing these crimes, the violent crimes, the murders or the shootings or whatever.
Cool. Video over. But Tim isn't satisfied with this. This deputy mayor, after all, is a lib.
And I'll also say, look, you know, Nils, he said he's biased, and you know that that's a very liberal perspective, so take that into account. We've got more...
Okay, a liberal perspective in Sweden would be being a fucking Nazi, by the way. Like, straight up. So, I don't know why. I don't think this mayor is a liberal. I don't know what that mayor's political background is, but I suspect it's probably not liberal. Like... That's not how the fucking politics works in Europe, okay? When you say someone's a liberal, they're fucking pretty much a Nazi, okay? Probably a social democrat, but even that in Sweden, I feel like has become more right-wing. Being biased is a liberal thing. You got it right, brother.
More interviews to do. We've got more experts to meet, and this is a daily thing, so, you know, expect more.
So he claims that he's going to go out and talk to more experts on the matter. Those experts include the random guy he's staying with who once saw a single crime scene and also a kid setting off fireworks.
Have there been any other incidents like that, or any kind of, maybe not a murder, but have you seen robberies or gang activity?
No, not at all. I mean, there was one 14-year-old that went, had like a...
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean I got bad news for you? Sweden's right wing announces new government with far right backing. The Sweden Democrats, the country's far right party, remains firmly anti-immigration and anti-multiculturalism despite a polished appearance. The moderates, Christian Democrats, and liberals will build a government and cooperate with the Sweden Democrats parliament. Yeah. What do you mean you got bad news for me? It's literally what I'm saying. Yeah, they, like, the Democrats, that's not how we see it in Sweden. We see the U.S. as being the right-wing ones. No, dude, I'm adjusting it to Swedish politics. That's my point. In America, the Liberal Party is supposed to be, like, out of the two options in our duopoly, is supposed to be the progressive wing, okay? The liberals, in that sense, are supposed to be the progressive party. In Europe, on the other hand, if you say a party is a liberal party, they are a right-wing party. Usually. Anyway. In the UK, Liberal Democrats can either be left-wing or right-wing depending on the leader. Chameleon party, basically. Yeah. Liberal parties in Europe are usually very capitalist, but socially very progressive. Sometimes, not always. Liberal also translates to libertarian in Europe, but it's more right-wing than, like, the major left-wing party is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so what are the conservative parties in Europe then? I mean, those are the more conservative parties. And a conservative party in Europe is oftentimes, if they're called, they're either, they have national in their language, in their party language, like a nationalist in their party language. They are fucking incredibly conservative. Nazis, monarchists, that kind of thing.
Pretty loud cracker, you know, a firecracker? Firecracker, yeah.
Next, he talks to an anonymous dude who works in the car business and claims that a certain type of person steals cars.
Basically, there's a lot of, I'm in the car business, and that's okay for me to say. But the majority of like the crimes involved in car business, it's never.
The Scottish Nationalist Party are quite left. Okay, you're now talking about an entirely different equation. Obviously, Irish nationalists or even Scottish nationalists are nationalist in a liberatory sense. If they are still under some colonial formation, then they're not going to have the same exact sentiments of like Germany's nationalists. Like nationalism under in an anti-imperialist sense is very different than nationalism when you are already your own national state. You have already achieved sovereignty. One is a battle for self-determination and sovereignty. The other is a battle to kill whatever the outgroup is.
Or I should not say never, because it happens, of course, that Swedes also commit crimes. But the majority of the crimes involved in car thefts, like stolen parts, frauds, we can see like clearly behind the scenes that it's definitely one type of group of people.
Still getting nothing, Tim just goes and walks around a problem area, the problem being that there aren't any problems there.
So we're walking around Rosengard. It's kind of boring.
Tim is clearly getting frustrated, and here's where we start to see the turn. For his next video, he meets with Chang Frick, a man he claims is a journalist who clearly has a poor opinion of immigrants.
We're about to meet with Chang Frick, who some people say is controversial. They say that he's aligned with the right-wing party here. Others say he's a good journalist.
The Swedes, if I use that word, or immigrants who have been living here for enough time, the criminality amongst these people have been really decreasing. So if we didn't have this big immigration, the numbers would be really low.
Again, nothing happens. They drive around, go to a mall, and it ends with Tim looking at Chang's computer as he shows him photos of crime scenes. Could have just been an email. But what Tim is not revealing in this video is that Chang Frick is actually a former right-wing politician who runs the Swedish equivalent of the Daily Wire. He's not an expert, he's not a random citizen or impartial journalist, and this pattern would keep going.
He's like, yeah, we found this impartial, unbiased former musician, Varg Vikernes. Please do not look him up. But he's going to give us a real look on what's happening in all the Nordic nations and in Europe and in the United States of America, as a matter of fact. Okay? He's going to tell us all. He's going to tell us about everything that we need to know. Okay? This is proto Tyler Oliveira style reporting. Yeah. Some say he's controversial. Throughout this conversation, he called me a Jew multiple times for being a Christian. I do not know what to make of this, but it seems like he's a wise man.
Next video, Tim would meet up with Eva.
He called me a Christ-cuck Jew over and over again.
RP, who, as the Daily Beast outlined, is just another right-wing columnist who once complained that Google results cater to the blacks and gays. Google, much like Grok, is woke, unfortunately. But again, Tim just says he's a personality and maybe controversial and shrugs it off.
We're gonna go meet with this guy, Ivar, who is a journalist, he's a personality, and apparently has a really good perspective on what's going on here, though it might be controversial. I don't know, I'm not Swedish.
I don't know, I'm not Swedish, says the guy who specifically...
Varg's been posting that Trump is trans for like this last 6 months. Yeah, he's like, I'm telling you, he's so out there. that it like leaps back to being funny. Okay. Where it goes from scary to like, I mean, this guy has literally done a crime. Okay. He fucking murdered, I think did he also engage in church burnings too, if I'm not mistaken? Like he fucking stabbed his bandmate and killed him. And he is such a fucking Nazi that he literally says, if you are Christian, you're also a Jew. He is a firm and committed believer that all followers of Abrahamic religions are also Jewish. Okay. And for those of you who are not following along, who, if you couldn't figure it out, he's using Jew as a pejorative. Like he's not saying like, he means like you're bad, you're Jewish if you're Christian. He's transcended beyond like the normal level of like Christian fascism. He isn't a Nazi. He said that he isn't a, he said that he isn't a national socialist because he isn't a socialist. Oh, that's awesome. Austin's Food is here.
Covering Sweden as a journalist.
Yeah, he's
you
a
see
pagan.
Here how
he's like such a fucking hardcore pagan that he believes that like if you're a believer of any Abrahamic religion, you are Jew.
Guessing has begun. Tim has just completely stopped trying to give context and is just walking around talking to propagandists, extremely ready to take their word for it. These videos are amazing in that they show Tim's origin story in real time. He purportedly tries to do real journalism, gets bored, and by the end, he's just flat out lying in order to push a right-wing perspective. Of course, maybe the big giveaway there was that he specifically went on a right-wing propagandist's dime. He talked to a single politician who immediately and rationally answers the question around immigration and crime.
What happened to fucking Paul Joseph Watson? He used to be so poppin' in like the InfoWars heyday when Donald Trump was like visiting Alex Jones. He just fucking disappeared. Does he still make videos? Another one was another guy who just disappeared off the fucking face of the earth is the other white nationalist, Stefan Molyneux. That was another guy. Like these guys, oh my God, dude, in the fucking heyday, these guys were popping. He still does. He still gets videos. He still gets views. When diversity backfires, Oprah's an idiot. They're really doing it. Damn, motherfucker still watches shit, bro. He's got decent numbers. What the fuck? Is this like a Stefan Molyneux meme type situation where it's just like I'm completely oblivious, but this guy is still pumping out. He's still pumping out slop. By the way, this is still a drop off. Okay. I can't believe I'm saying this, but like in comparison to where he was or what he was popping off with, like the numbers that he was churning out, in comparison to the numbers that he was churning out, like this is minor. Like this guy in his fucking heyday was hitting biblical numbers. Like he was hitting crazy numbers. Yeah, see? Sexodus. Why are young men giving up on women? 3.8 million views. Never before seen video. Obama whines about white privilege. The truth about Hillary's bizarre behavior 8 years ago. 7 million views. Butthurt crying Hillary voters compilation 7 years ago. The truth about popular culture. 2.8 million views. Like all of his top fucking videos. The Islamic State of Sweden 6 years ago. Like when I tried to explain to you how fucking insanely right-wing the internet was 8 years ago, 7 years ago, like when I try to tell you, like this guy was consistently churning out videos that were getting 1 million views plus. Like 2014 to 2018 was peak Paul Joseph Watson era. Back then, it was like the Milo Yiannopoulos era. You know what I mean? Like these guys, YouTube was so bad back then. Holy fucking shit. Like even that, this is the reason why even now with all things considered, with how like shitty Twitter is, right? With how shitty like debate lords get sometimes, like how racist debate lords get. I still believe that it is nowhere near as bad as that era when I was at the Young Turks, and my God, did people fucking despise me. Holy shit. There was no safe space online at all. The entirety of the ecosystem was a safe space for the most right-wing sentiment. Right-wing YouTubers do purposely watch and like these videos just to promote their ideas. These numbers don't necessarily translate into actual engagement, like buying merch and paying for memberships. I think what's actually kind of sad about it is that like it's happening again now, but this time with like even dumber arguments somehow. Like this is the nerdy kind of racism that most people abhor now, that they used to do all the fucking time and that shit was popping. But nowadays it's like, nowadays we've gotten to a point where it's all like bro style PUA manosphere content creators who are pumping out that kind of shit. Yeah, we got philosopher racism. Wait, this is Drink Coffee. Wasn't he the fucking annoying guy earlier? You're thinking he would thrive on Twitter, but I've never seen him. I know. No, that is true. It was like more, it was a wannabe philosopher racism. I can't believe I'm agreeing with the fucking annoying guy who was like, everyone in China hates Mao, but I can tell where this person comes from, what community this person comes from how clued in he is on and the types of racism that he has encountered, possibly also now regurgitated by the same content creators that he most likely enjoys the content of in the exact same way. But let's not even get into that. Every right-wing content creator is just a golden one now. Yeah, but nowadays I think like the right-wing sentiment that's like really popping is no longer the fucking, whoa, dude, that's I use that for my glasses.
Oh, sorry.
There's fucking napkins right there.
Sorry.
That's crazy.
Sorry. I do apologize. I was just a little shiny. Sorry.
Insane. It's fine. What happened with Milo something? He works with Kanye now.
It looked like a nice towel.
Yeah. Do you think YouTube has become the least insane platform in the main social media? No, I think Twitch is better. Twitch, I think, is still significantly better than YouTube in terms of like actually following through on a terms of service. YouTube is still pretty bad, dude. There's active fucking Nazis on there. It's just not as bad as it used to be, because back then it was like they would force feed a copy of Mein Kampf into every fucking 14-year-old teenage boy. So what TikTok is decent. I mean, but they also have like the worst of the worst on either side because there's no moderation whatsoever. YouTube is still very much pumping that right-wing pipeline on at least the YouTube Shorts equation, and also there's still plenty of fucking Nazis that have like major platforms on there.
Well, hello.
Austin is here.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. I was invited this time for ban appeals, but I'm a little early, it seems. We've got another 3 hours left in this video.
Okay. It's
He
only 30
hand
more
waves
minutes
the guy
left.
for being
We're
a
watching
leftist,
Tim Pool.
and then goes and talks to the most extreme racists he can find while vaguely calling them controversial. At one point, he runs into 3 dudes in a bowling alley who Tim claims he just happens to meet. They chat about immigration like it's a casual encounter. And what Tim completely omits is that those 3 random guys were actually 3 far-right conspiracy theorists, at least one of whom is known for blaming Jews for the Holocaust. They're just Nazi dudes that wanted to be in Tim's little movie. When Tim was confronted about this on an AMA, he just completely shrugs it off. He doesn't see the problem. After all, he got paid. Ultimately, Tim saw nothing substantial in his all-expenses-paid trip to Sweden. The most that happens is a part where he claims the cops escorted him out of an area lest he be assaulted by some ruffians.
The police have just warned us that if we don't leave now and take this escort, it's going to get really bad
It's
really
very
fast.
like
50 people could be here in minutes.
It's
and
what
they
happens when
recognize
you put a
us.
bunch of
They're
white people
masking.
together for
Damn.
hundreds and thousands of years.
The Swedes are not going to like that. They're going to come after you for that.
Oh, no.
No,
oh, no.
2 things.
All 10 of
Firstly,
them.
Tim, we can see that there are families with kids walking around. It's a strip mall, not a war zone. Also, no.
It's funny because like everyone else in that region treats Swedes like they're Polish. Like they are the Poles of the Nordics. You know what I mean? So it's pretty funny that they have this like entitled attitude about like racial inferiority or racial superiority to those who are coming into Sweden. And it's like, if you ask a Finnish or a Norwegian person how they feel about like Swedish people, they'd be like, oh yeah, they're like the Polish of the Nordics. Now, of course, the Swedes are going to get very mad at me for this and get super nationalistic. But like, yeah. What? That's not true. That's the Danish. Okay.
I have a lot of Swedish. I've been to Sweden. I have Swedish friends. And when I was there, they were really, really against immigration. Are they still against immigration?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All of those countries are now becoming more and more
like 2017. I remember 2018. They were talking about like in Malmö. They were talking about how Malmö was going to shit because of immigrants. Like that was the prevailing. That was the prevailing narrative back then.
According to the Swedish police, they never told Tim Pool this. He's a liar. Now, to be clear, cops are also liars. But so is Tim. He's quite the also a liar. And a weirdo who was filming young people and they got upset. That's actually what happened. Tim Pool, cool skate guy, creeped out some kids. But this began Tim Pool's descent into the lucrative world of right-wing guessing. After all, he just got paid $20,000 to go on a vacation. And for the right, it didn't matter that Tim wasn't very good at what he did.
Dude, that's crazy. You're crazy, bro. He said that's it.
Well,
when he heard $20,000, that's crazy.
Well,